Hello, our code student. Today we're going to be going over the intermediate elementary level challenges. This is going to be the second challenge, find the sum. Oh, yikes. Okay, and the prompt is add three inputted numbers together and print out the output in the format your sum is sum. So the main three things that you should learn today is print with the addition of two integers, the int command, changing the data type of whatever's in the parentheses into a string, and the string command, which is going to change whatever data type inside there to a string. So in our pseudocode, again in Replit, make sure that you can make an account in Replit. It shouldn't be that hard. There will be a tutorial coming out soon on the channel, and it should be relatively short. You can also do this on any other platform, but Replit is pretty easy to access, so I recommend doing that. Make sure that you have it in Python though, so that might be an issue that you might encounter. So let's go through our individual steps. We will take in the first number and change it to an integer. This is later on used to add the three integers together, but then we need to change the sum into a string so we can attach the string to your sum is. Oh, and let's add a period here. So let's get right into writing the input. We're going to write num1. You can do n1, you can do number1, you can name it as anything, but make sure that as a programmer or as a reader, you know what the numbers or what the variable is going to represent. So we're going to do input and the prompt. Again, make sure you have a good question so the user is able to understand what is needed to be put in as an input. So what is your first number? And make sure, again, that you have to change it to an integer because we're going to be adding the numbers together. So this is going to change whatever's inside here. And remember that the input is always going to be a string. And we're going to change it to an integer. This is only possible if the user gives in a number, right? So like 1, 2, or 3, not like D or G or a name or something like that. So it's very important that whatever is asked in the prompt is understandable for the user. So we can go through it a little more in depth of the integer. I think I went through it a little fast. We can have a variable. So let's say a string. And we can make that equal to 12. So a 12, but in string. Now we're going to do an integer, but we're going to do the int version of that string. So again, we're just going to do a number. We're just going to do 1. And we are going to type in string. So as you can see, it's in quotes so that 12 is currently a string. The integer is going to be 12, but in the integer data type. So as you can see here, it originally was 12, but the integer is going to be assigned. So that's what the equal sign is here. I should have explained that in the previous video. The equal sign here is going to essentially mean assigned. So num1 is assigned, like if you're assigned homework, you're given homework. So you're given a value to the variable. So string here is assigned the data type string of 12. And then the integer is going to get the integer version of the string, which is 12. So we're going to have the integer 12 versus the string 12. So that's what the int does. So when we put the int around everything, we're going to have the integer version of the input. If you put in a letter, it's going to display an error, and it will be a little hard to explain how to avoid that, right? You'll use loops until you get a valid input, but for now, we're just going to make things simple and take things step by step, which is very important in programming. So we're going to do the same exact thing. Honestly, we can just copy and paste. It's always fine to copy and paste. Just make sure that you change the variable name. If you do not change the variable name, then what's going to happen is that it's the first variable is going to get assigned this. Then if you have num1 here, it's going to get reassigned another number, and then finally assigned the third number. And when you find the sum, you'll be adding the same number 3 times if you do num1 plus num1 plus num1. So you have to assign them to different variables. So num1, num2, and num3. And your prompt should also change respectively. So this is going to be our first step. We're going to identify what our numbers are. Again, this isn't going to print or display anything because we have not done anything with the variables. So now we're going to have to find the sum. So we're just going to type in sum. Ooh, that already means something. We can do number sum. So the interesting thing about coding is that usually when we have variable names, we usually have the first letter not capitalized, and then whatever word that is right after, we don't put spaces. If you put spaces, it's going to be a separate variable, and that's going to cause issues. And then the capital letter for the next letter. It's just like, I guess, grammar and coding, but you don't have to. You can do number sum. But it can be hard to like read number sum and like see which individual words there are. So here we're going to have change the sum into a string, but first we're going to have to find the sum of the 3 integers. We're going to add num1 to num2 to num3. This is going to work, so let's just do this. So let's do 1, 1, and 1. We expect 3. Number sum. We should expect 3 because when we add integers together, we're going to add it mathematically. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So as you can see, it's 3. And as you can see here, it is an integer. And that's an issue because when we're adding this into your sum is going to cause an error because this is an integer and your sum is a string. So you have to put the string command around the two of them, around the sum. So now the number sum is going to be a string, so we can test that out again. Let's do 2, 2, and 2. We expect 6. As you can see, 6 is now a string. So finally, we're going to do the final step. Just like last time, we're going to do using the commas and the addition symbols. You can use one or the other. Well, really, the addition symbol is most useful, I guess, but you can also use the comma. You have print your, so we need to put this in quotes, your sum is, and let's just add a colon, or no, okay. Your sum is, and we're just going to do a comma here because we want a space, number sum plus a period. So as we run through this, our first number is going to be 3, the second number is going to be 7, and the final number is going to be 9. We're going to get 19. And this is going to work for any numbers. Make sure that they are numbers and not letters. So this, 14. Yeah. And you can do whatever. You can change a little bit. Let your imagination run wild. So let's review. We have the first 3 lines. So the first 3 lines of code are going to identify the values of the first 3 variables. They're going to take in an input, and they're going to change that string input into an integer input. Then we're going to create a variable that finds the string version of the sum. So the sum is when you add things, the answer is going to be called a sum. The 3 integers. But then we need to change that back into a string so we can then add the strings together. We use a comma to attach the strings together, but also add a space. And we use the plus symbol to directly attach the strings together. So if you got through all of that, great job. Again, good luck in your Hour of Code journey. I hope you have an amazing day.